So, my friends, what story are we going to have today? Let's find out. Open up the treasure chest. I wonder. I think I'll show you later, actually, what I've just taken out. It's very interesting today. Once upon a time, there was a fisherman called Khalifa. Khalifa wasn't rich, he wasn't poor, he just about had enough money. He wasn't the greatest fisherman in the world, nor was he the worst fisherman in the world. He was okay. He would catch just enough fish. Not too many, not too few. Just enough to feed himself and his family, and a few extra to sell at the fish market on a Friday morning. Everything in his life was fine. Until the big ships came along. These ships had big nets which caught too many fish. More fish than anyone needed. The ships would put their nets into the water, catch millions and millions of fish, and throw most of them away because they were only after one sort of fish. All the others would just die and fall in the water. What a waste of fish that was. So poor little fishermen like Khalifa, they had to go further and further and further away from home, trying to find new areas to fish. One day, Khalifa went further away than he'd ever been before. He was so exhausted. All that rowing. And very soon, he was lost. And he found himself surrounded in a strange white mist. This mist became thick around him. So thick that when he put his hand in front, he couldn't even wiggle his fingers and see them. It was as if 1,000 shiny, shimmering, slithering snakes were coiling around his arm, coiling around his boat. Everything was quiet. He could still hear the of his oars. He could still hear the lapping of the waves against the side of his boat. And he could hear his heart beating. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. And then, all of a sudden, out of the mist appeared the prow of a huge ship, one of the fishing boats, and it crashed straight into the side of Khalifa's little rowing boat, smashing it to smithereens. Luckily, Khalifa was a good swimmer. He grabbed one piece of wood, he grabbed his net with the other hand, and somehow, I don't know how, but somehow, he managed to make it back to shore. But when he sat on that shore, his head was in his hands, and he thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? How am I going to make a living? I can't go on like this. I have no boat. I can't be a fisherman without a boat. And I have no money. I can't buy a new boat, and I certainly can't repair this one. It's in pieces. Bits of the boat were bobbing around on the ocean. What am I going to do? Well, the first thing he tried to do was to wade out into the sea, holding his net and hoping that a fish might just swim into it. But of course that didn't work. In fact, the only thing he caught that day was a cold. The following day, he tried to swim under the water with the net, trying to chase a fish. But he got wrapped up in his own net and he nearly drowned. On the following day, he swam out to a rock. In fact, it was that rock over there. You see it? Look out your window. You'll see the rock. That one over there. And on that rock, he sat there, dangling the net into the sea. Well, he was lucky if he caught a single crab. And after doing this for several days, he was about to give up. I'll give it one more day, he said. So he gathered up the net into a tight little bundle and he looked at the net and he said, "Come on, net, come on, net. Catch some fish today." And he threw the net as far as he could and it landed with a 1, 2, 3 splash in the sea. He waited 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And when he went to pull the net in, it felt heavy. And he thought, yes, brilliant, fantastic, I've caught myself a fish. But when he pulled it in, all he had caught was a stinky old boot. What a piece of rubbish. And he threw that back in the sea and immediately felt guilty about putting some rubbish into the sea. But he was feeling very, very desperate. So he gathered up the net, said, "Come on, net, come on, net. Catch some fish today." And he threw that net out as far as he could and it landed with a 1, 2, 3 splash. And he waited 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. And when he went to pull the net in, it felt really heavy. And he got really excited and a big smile appeared on his face. He smiled from ear to ear. And when he pulled it in, all he had caught was a rusty old anchor. More rubbish. What am I going to do? Thought Khalifa. I'll give it one last go. One last go, and if I don't catch any fish at all, that's it. I'm giving up. I'll do something else. So he gathered up the net. He looked at the net. Come on, net. Come on, net. Please catch some fish today. And he threw it as far as he could, and it landed with a 1, 2, 3 splash. And he waited 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours. And when he went to pull the net in, it wouldn't budge. It wouldn't shift at all. Oh no, what am I going to do? Thought Khalifa. What am I going to do? My net is now stuck. I have no net. I have no boat. I'm the worst fisherman in the world. And he was about to go back home, but he realised he couldn't because the tide had come right in and the sea was very high around his rock. He'd have to wait at least a couple of hours. Besides, he didn't want to just leave the net dangling in the water. That was dangerous. He might catch a dolphin or something. He knew he'd have to dive into the water, follow the net down to the bottom of the sea and free the net. So he gathered up his courage, took a deep breath and 1, 2, 3, dived into the waves. Down and down he went. And the weird thing is, as he swam down following the net just seemed to grow and grow and grow. He didn't remember the net being this long. He wasn't going to be able to hold his breath for that much longer. He went down and down and down, and his lungs were about to burst. He couldn't hold his breath anymore. He was about to swim up to the surface when he saw something at the bottom of the sea, just glinting away like this. Glinting. And the fish were swimming around his head at this point, and they seemed to be saying, "Khalifa, Khalifa, go a little bit deeper." Khalifa swam down and down, and he reached out, and he touched this object. And the moment he touched it, the most amazing thing happened. He found he could breathe under the water. He could breathe under the water. This was incredible. He swam around and he looked at the net and he saw the net was stuck to a rock. So he freed the net Then he picked the object up, but the moment he carried it, he could no longer breathe underwater. He grabbed the object and he swam as fast as he could to the surface of the sea, coughing and spluttering and running out of breath on the way. And when he got back to his rock, he could hardly breathe. He was exhausted. He didn't know what to do. And he looked at the object he'd pulled out of the sea and he thought, oh no, I pulled more rubbish out of the water. But then he looked closely and he could see it was in fact some kind of genie bottle. Or was it? Some kind of antique, maybe. Something you could sell at the antiques market on a Wednesday morning. Well, he did wonder what was inside. Can't be a genie. Genies don't exist. So, he reached out to the lid, but then thought better of it. Shall I? Shan't I? Shall I open this bottle? Well, he was feeling brave and desperate all at the same time. Shall I open the bottle? Shall I open the bottle? He reached out, grabbed the stopper, twisted it, and into the air a huge cloud appeared. A huge swirling cloud, like 1,000 shimmering, swirling silver snakes, wrapping around his arm, going up into the sky. Khalifa just stared at this cloud, his knees knocking together, his teeth chattering together. What is it? What is it? What is it? And then he thought, maybe it is a genie. Wow! Maybe it really is a genie. I did find a genie bottle after all. Oh, fantastic. Genies give you a wish. Sometimes they even give you 3 wishes. I know what I want to wish for. I know what I want to wish for. And he called up to the cloud, Oi, Mr. Genie, give us a wish, will you? The cloud parted, and out from the inside appeared the most frightening genie you can imagine. Who do you think you are? Aladdin or someone? There will be no wishes today or any other day, for I am the genie, Una Maloon. For 1800 years I was a prisoner inside that bottle, and for the first 600 years I just sat in that bottle, as miserable can be. And I said to myself, if anyone frees me, I will make that person the richest person who ever lived. But no one came along to free me. And so, for the next 600 years, I just sat in that bottle, getting more and more desperate. And I said to myself, if anyone frees me now, not only will I make them rich, but I will also make them incredibly powerful. But no one came to rescue me. And so, for the last 600 years, I just sat in that bottle, and I got angrier, and I got angrier and angrier, and I said to myself, well, if anyone comes along now to free me, they will get just one thing from me. They will get death. Well, that's a bit unfair, thought Khalifa. You can't do that. That's really mean. I mean, it was me that let you out of the bottle. You've been in there for 1800 years, and I let you out. And all you want to do is kill me? That's a bit mean of you, honestly. And then he had to think quickly. But hold on a minute. I don't think that you were ever inside that bottle. I mean, come on. How could anyone as big, as tall and, quite frankly, as podgy as you ever fit inside such a small bottle? I reckon you were hiding behind that mountain over there. What? Said the genie. You're calling me, the genie Unamaloon, a liar? How dare you? Of course I was in that bottle for 1800 years. I will prove it to you, and then I will kill you. Go on then, said Khalifa. I bet you can't do it. So the genie, he closed his eyes, he took in a deep breath of air, and again that white, shimmering cloud appeared around him, and then it coiled down, down, down into the bottle. As quickly as he could, Khalifa took the stopper and locked the genie inside. There, you horrible, big, fat, meanie genie! How dare you terrorise poor little fishermen like me? What have I ever done to you? It was me that let you out of the bottle in the first place. You're just a bully. You're just a meanie genie. How dare you do that to me? You can stay in that bottle for another 1800 years and see if I care. And he grabbed the bottle and he took it back in his arm and he was about to throw it into the sea when he heard a little voice inside. No, please don't throw me back into the sea. Please, I beg you. Khalifa suddenly felt sorry for that genie. You see, Khalifa had a very big heart, and he hated to think of the genie being cooped up in such a small space for such a long time. Okay, genie, now listen to me. If I let you out this bottle for a second time, you've got to promise me some stuff, okay? Okay. If I let you out the bottle for a second time, can you promise not to be so angry? I promise. And can you promise not to be so vicious? I promise. And can you promise not to be so tall? I promise. So Khalifa, he reached out, put his hand on the stopper, and he thought, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, I wonder, what shall I do? But he pulled out the lid, and straight away, out came the smoke, flying all over the place, and this time the bottle flew around in the air, left, right, up, down. It was as if it was a rocket, and it came smashing down onto the rock where Khalifa was sitting. And the bottle broke open, and inside was a mini genie, much, much smaller than before. Thank you, Khalifa. That was very kind of you to let me go. I'm sorry I was such a bully. Bye. And he went flying off into the sky. But before he vanished, he gave Khalifa a magic net. This net here would always catch fish. Not too many, not too few, just enough. Enough to sell at the fish market and enough to feed himself, his wife and his family. And from that day on, Khalifa never ever went out in a rowing boat. He could do all his fishing from that rock. And as for the genie, well, I do believe the genie is still out there, flying around, helping any fisherman that needs him in their hour of need. Thank you, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this story.